My goodness. Thank you so much, Patty, because I was just over here cooking in my feelings, baby, getting down. She's like, there's no sound. I was like, what? Well, typically and normally when I play the intro and then I, go in and start talking, the mute's off. So apparently today it didn't want to turn off. So I'll go back to it. I guess you guys didn't hear the prayer. My lips are moving, but nothing's happening. Oh, good morning or muted. Can you guys hear me now? I guess I should do a mic check and make sure. Okay, so you can't hear me now. Thank you, Patty. That is so precious of you. Because look, I would have been cooking and burning. Okay. And like, oh no, nobody can hear me but me. And the recording wouldn't pick up. He says, okay, Black and Power says, okay, there it is. Loud and clear now. Thank you so much. I had no idea that my mute button was on. So thank you. That's another thing that I will definitely make sure to keep up with. So let me go back and do that prayer again since I was muted and didn't realize it. But where I wanted to start with us for today is our prayer, just how to honor God with our body. And God, help me with my mind. God, help me to fix my mind. Um, help me to fix my thoughts on what is pure and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. So I will think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. God, help me with my ears. God, help me to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. God, help me with my eyes. God, I make a covenant with my eyes not to look lustfully. God, help me with my mouth. God, set a guard over my mouth. Lord, keep watch over the doors of my lips. God, help me with my help me with my hands. Sorry. God, help me to do good to everyone, and especially to those who belong to our family in the faith. God, help me with my reproductive organs. God, help me to honor you with my body. God, help me with my feet. God, let your word be a lamp for my feet and a light on my path. And what I really wanted to impress upon everybody today is the particular scripture in James 1:19 that says, God, help me to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. Because what I've seen is people have been slow to listen, quick to speak, and very quick to become angry, even though initially they may not have started off that way. Our media has definitely been at a fever pitch with the recent passing of Charlie Kirk. And it's been very devastating, you know, to a lot of people and individuals, and not just him passing the way it happened, the the event, it happened at an event, where there were other individuals around. And now, it's the back and forth with blaming who's at fault, right? And again, it's very emotional right now. Hey, Dr. C, and Dr. C says, Happy Friday, founder. Happy Friday to you. So I do want to also acknowledge Tamion. And this is someone that you guys may or may not have heard of, but I wanted to bring him up. And he is a 34-year-old man. He was found dead in his cell at the Fort Bend County Jail on April 3rd, 2025. He had been arrested 2 days prior for a charge of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Officials confirmed he was alone in his cell at the time of death, and the cause of death remains under investigation. The Texas Rangers are conducting an investigation into the incident. Multiple news outlets, including Houston Public Media and Click to Houston, reported on the death, with the latter noting that the investigation was in its early stages. The Fort Bend County District Attorney's Office is leading the investigation into Mr. Keenan's death. And the thing about this, what a lot of people don't know, and Sassy Lady, thank you so much for reposting the stream, is that not only was this man found dead, when they alerted his mother that he had passed, his organs had been harvested. She was not contacted. And so this is an ongoing investigation, and they are right now trying to raise funds so that they can get an attorney, right? And you can visit this X account here. This is his mother, Gloria Rivard, and she's at Justice for Tamian. And then also Pink Ice, she has a page, and you can follow her at Pink Ice 076-48820. And she says, please help us get justice for Tamian. All proceeds will go towards legal fees, also including private investigations, and all and they appreciate all of the donations. And they have a Give, Send, Go, and their goal is $25,000. And right now they've raised $445. So they have a ways to go, but it needs to be done by October. So we don't have that much more time. They need to procure a attorney to represent them so that they can find out why he passed, and again, why his organs were harvested without notifying the family. So we're definitely praying for Tamian's family. And Sassy Lady says good morning, and she also says blessings on the Friday. Blessings to you too. And Dr. C, thank you also for reposting the stream. Now, I am going to get into some videos to really set the stage for what I'm seeing going on in the media, but I need to give you the opportunity to really take in what's been happening. Some of you may have been following the media on what's happened with Mr. Kirk, and also what's happened with the Colorado high school shooting that happened right around the same time. They all literally happened within the same day. And so obviously one's getting more coverage than the other, but I'm always asking the question, if they have us looking over here, what's really going on? Because we have a lot going on. Don't get me wrong, we have a lot going on, but it's always for me the why, and I have to stop and stand back and really take in James 1:19. Be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. And so with that, we're going to check out our first video.
Back to this news. Axios reports had talked to a dozen former Biden White House officials. They're now attacking Kamala Harris. In her new book, she said there was growing panic inside the Biden White House, and Biden did not drop out of last year's race, that Biden was reckless, that he stayed in because of his ego and ambition. This is ugly stuff. Joining us now, House Ways and Means Chair, Congressman Jason Smith. Congressman, always a pleasure to see you. What do you make of this? Because Biden's aides are now saying Harris is trying to scapegoat Biden to try to mask her own shortcomings.
It's exactly the case. She is just trying to get attention. She's throwing Biden off the bus, and this is what, people will hurt you a lot to help them a little in Washington, D.C. She's doing that.
She was there up close and personal. She saw Biden's decline, didn't say anything. And this is pretty nasty stuff. Let's read the quotes. Biden's aides are saying Vice President Harris was simply not good at the job. She had basically zero substantive role in any of the White House key work streams. Instead, would just dive bomb in for stilted photo ops that expose how out of depth she was. The Hill media is reporting Democrats are discombobulated. They don't have any agenda beyond Trump is bad. Put this all together for us.
Well, that's exactly the case. The Democrats in Washington just virtually have Trump derangement syndrome. Anything that President Trump wants, they're opposed to. Regardless if it's something that's best for the American people, they just will oppose anything, absolutely anything that President Trump is pushing.
Are they backing down, sir, after the assassination of Charlie Kirk? What are your thoughts now on what the Democrats are doing and the mood in D.C. right now?
I'll tell you, the mood in D.C. is just heartbroken. What our country experienced in the last 24 hours with the assassination of my friend Charlie Kirk, It is absolutely horrendous. And I'll tell you, even Democrats up here, like, they feel the pain. The political violence should not be tolerated out of anyone. Violence, period, should not be tolerated. But for speaking freedom of speech, that's not what America's about. And I'll tell you, Liz, what's really, really disappointing is to get on social media and see people who are praising something so horrendous. It's absolutely unacceptable. That is not the America that we are.
Ways and Means Chairman Jason Smith, thank you so much for being with us, sir. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, and I appreciated Mr. Smith's take because at least he's pointing out, like, yeah, you know, the Democrats here on the Hill, they're feeling this too. They're reeling from this, and they're calling for no violence, right? In this political realm. I remember a couple of days ago when they were talking at a press conference in Utah. I guess it was the governor. I thought he was maybe a sheriff or a official that was more so with the police. And he said, this was a political assassination. So it was classified immediately. And everybody has run with that narrative. And I just need us to really stay focused on what's happening. And Black Empower says there was a shooting at the University of Massachusetts in Boston as well yesterday. And I'm just now hearing about this from you because it wasn't on All Sides. And that's, an outlet that I use, to bring news to you guys. So thank you so much for that, Black Empower. And it says there was a report of shots fired at the University of Massachusetts in Boston on Thursday. It prompted a large-scale police response and campus lockdown, but authorities have since declared the scene all clear with no ongoing threats or confirmed injuries. The incident, reported around 3 p.m. near the East Building Residence Hall in Dorchester, led to the evacuation of students and staff, with law enforcement from UMass Boston Police Department, and Massachusetts State Police securing the area. The university confirmed that the situation was a public safety threat and canceled all remaining classes and activities for the day. And I also heard that there were a few HBCU campuses that also closed because they had gotten certain threats. And so just to be on the safer side, they canceled classes yesterday as well. Classes might be canceled also today because there are a lot of people out there that could be copycats, that could be, at a heightened state. But again, nobody's really trying to, and I'm waiting to see it. And when I say this, hear me, shut it down. Stop this. Nobody's going to be violent. We're going to take care of one another. And we are going to make sure that we, to the best of our abilities, shut down these threats on our college campuses and in places that are considered soft targets, right? We need to hear that tone, not the emotional tone of which I'm going to show you in these videos next, and really take a hard look at why are we doing this.
The chair would ask that all members present in the chamber and those in the gallery please rise for a moment of prayer for Charlie Kirk and his family. what purpose does the gentlelady from Colorado rise? Shh. Let's wait a minute. Wait a minute. The House will be in order. The House will be in order. Shh. The House will be in order. Shh. The House will be in order. We will join prayer right after this, okay? The chair lays before the House a communication. The House will be in order.
Yeah, that's our House of Representatives, you guys. So apparently they did have a moment of silence. Somebody asked, could we do a prayer out loud? People got very upset about that. Like, how dare you? And it was weird because I had to listen to the communication a few different times. Apparently people were talking about, well, what about the kids in Colorado? And then there was some other back and forth. The F word flew. And I'm like, what are y'all doing? We pay you people to be there. Obviously, you don't know what your jobs are. And again, and I'm going to keep calling for this. All of them need to be removed from office. Vote them out. Any incumbents, they don't get to go back. None of them. None of them. Because they're not doing their job. That might be my opinion. I don't know if you guys see it, but in my opinion, they are not doing their job. And they should not go back to the House of Representatives. None of them. And they are all up for re-election in 2026. Okay. So Sassy Lady says psychology is truly needed. Yeah. We need to figure out what's going on with people and why. Now, this next video is pretty much an outlook and compilation. But what I noticed is the parts of other videos that they took, it created a narrative that's not necessarily true in a sense. And what I mean by that is, if you were to see the videos outside of this compilation video, you would get a different perspective. That's all I'm saying. And that's why I really try to, I'm trying to be better about using videos in their context, proper context, so that when you see it, you get a better understanding of, okay, this is what happened. This is how it happened. And just really put the news at your feet so you can make an informed decision. Again, these are the things we have to look out for.
Trump and others have spoken out about rising far-left violence in America after the assassination of Charlie Kirk.
It's a long past time for all Americans and the media to confront the fact that violence and murder are the tragic consequence of demonizing those with whom you disagree day after day, year after year, in the most hateful and despicable way possible. For years, those on the radical left have compared wonderful Americans like Charlie to Nazis and the world's worst mass murderers and criminals. This kind of rhetoric is directly responsible for the terrorism that we're seeing in our country today.
In a sign there is little appetite for bringing Americans together, some Democrats on the House floor last night were accused of refusing to say a prayer for the murdered activist.
The chair would ask that all members present in the chamber and those in the...
Now, I just showed you that video. It wasn't that they were refusing to pray. They don't have to pray because they already had the moment of silence. They already did the respectful thing. Prayer is something that, yes, you can participate in. But again, Speaker Johnson says, we will pray later, right? For those that want to pray, but let's get back to the business of the people. Just saying. But this person put in the compilation video didn't frame it that way. So that's why I'm always telling you guys, be very careful when you are ingesting the news so that you're more informed.
gallery, please rise for a moment of prayer for Charlie Kirk and his family.
It was silent prayer, by the way. That's all. It was still prayer.
Let's, wait a minute. The House will be in order. The House will be in order. Shh. The House will be in order. Shh. The House will be in order. We will join prayer right after this, okay?
Democrat and ex-presidential candidate Elizabeth Warren was asked about dialing back the rhetoric towards conservatives.
Oh, please. Right. Why don't you start with the President of the United States? Right? And every ugly meme he has posted and every ugly word.
And some influencers reiterated that in a democracy to
Now, I'm going to pause that video right there, and I'm going to show you the full video of Representative Warren.
Violence is never the answer. This is just wrong. And my heart goes out to his family, to his friends. But we just cannot be a country that turns to violence when we disagree with people. We just can't.
What can Congress do about it, Senator?
Well, one thing Congress can do is gun safety. And every time there's a killing, the Republicans say this is not the time to talk about gun safety. And yet we have to. As a nation, we have more gun deaths than most other nations, and we don't keep our children, our friends, our neighbors safe by just putting ordinary gun safety rules in place. You know, I just want to say this coming from Massachusetts. If the rest of the country would just follow the rules we follow in Massachusetts, we could reduce fatalities all over this country. And plenty of people who are hunters and who use guns for sport still have lots of activities in Massachusetts. But at least we make it a little tougher to use guns for harming other human beings.
What do you say to people who are saying the Democrats need to lower the temperatures?
Oh, please. Right. Why don't you start with the President of the United States? Right? And every ugly meme he has posted and every ugly word. He is the leader of this nation. And I think that when he's posting things like he did just a couple of days ago, trying to show an entire city on fire, and a reference to helicopters, in effect, throwing people out of helicopters and showing himself as some kind of big chest-beating threat, then I just don't want to hear this from the Republicans.
Do you think politicians on both sides have a role to play here, though, in trying to turn the rhetoric down?
I think what we have to say is, A, violence is not the answer, and we are willing to take steps so that violence in this country is not so lethal. Do we have a single Republican who will stand up and join us following the school shooting out in Denver at the same time? School shootings happen every single day. They have become commonplace in this country. It's hard now to actually get attention when someone has been mowed down with a gun, and Congress could change that and should change that.
I just asked Senator Cassidy that same question before you, and he said Congress can't change the heart of a man.
You can change whether or not they have a lethal weapon in their hands. And the likelihood that they will be able to kill another person or to kill themselves goes up if they have a lethal weapon.
Now here's the thing. She keeps saying, well, Congress can do this, Congress can do that. You know what Congress can't do and has
express
not
your
done,
own opinion.
right? Congress has not gotten rid of crime. Like, you need to get rid of the criminals, ma'am. You need to make it harder for criminals to be out on the streets to even access the guns, because guess what? They're going to have guns. You can tell all the good people, hey, we're going to put these regulations in place so, there's more waiting times, or we're going to make sure we do more background checks so that good people will follow that. The criminals are not ever going to follow that. And Black Empower says, all political theater. I wouldn't be surprised if both sides had a prior rehearsal, right? Was she ready to give that response when she walked up to the microphone? Did you hear anybody say anything to her? I didn't. But I wanted to play you her response because the way it was clipped, it gave another perception, right? And it gave another tone. That's why I wanted to play that part of the video for you guys. Now we'll get back to the first one.
Is you're right.
Charlie Kirk is dead. He got shot at an event that he was hosting in Utah. And I am sad, distraught. In fact, I just cried on my live stream in front of 250,000 people. My goal in this video is to tell you why I feel this way. If you want to end gun violence, it is something that you can never celebrate. It is always disgusting, always vile, and always abhorrent. I've made that very clear over the last year, but does that mean I think he deserves to lose his life? No. Does that mean I think his 2 young children, who were in attendance at the event where he was shot, deserve to watch their father die? No. Does that mean I think they deserve to grow up without him? No. Does that mean I think that his wife, who was also there, deserved to lose her husband? No.
But a vigil held in Idaho last night turned violent. Here's Donald Trump's full statement on Charlie Kirk's.
No, pause that. Okay, I'm going to pause that, and now I'm going to play you the video that he just played. It has a little bit more audio.
This guy's going to get fucked. Some guy.
So apparently the person that's getting beat up was going through saying F Charlie Kirk, and basically he was glad he was dead. Now he did this during heightened emotion. Now here's the other part. You got people yelling USA. You got people with heightened emotions. But some of these people claim to be Christians. And obviously everybody there may not have been. And here's the thing. People saying things like F this person, F person, yeah, they've got the freedom to say it. You may not like it, but they have the freedom to say it. Let them go on about their business and get back to yours. But this is what happened. Sorry for the language, you guys.
Yeah, whatever! Get out of here! Get out! Get out!
And the police are not really engaged on this one. I mean, they're there. What are we doing?
Get out! Get out of here!
And I'll, send the link with the repost. But this is what's happening. You hear the lady in the background get out. You hear the other person saying F Charlie Kirk. And you saw all that violence happening because somebody decided to roll through the crowd and have their free speech. Again, quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to become angry. Are Christians really practicing that? That's where we're at right now.
To my great fellow Americans, I am filled with grief and anger at the heinous assassination of Charlie Kirk on a college campus in Utah. Charlie inspired millions, and tonight all who knew him and loved him are united in shock and horror. Charlie was a patriot who devoted his life to the cause of open debate and the country that he loved so much, the United States of America. He fought for liberty, democracy, justice, and the American people. He's a martyr for truth and freedom, and there's never been anyone who was so respected by youth. Charlie was also a man of deep, deep faith, and we take comfort in the knowledge that he is now at peace with God in heaven. Our prayers are with his wife, Erica, the two young, beloved children, and his entire family, who he loved more than anything in the world. We ask God to watch over them in this terrible hour of heartache and pain. This is a dark moment for America. Charlie Kirk traveled the nation, joyfully engaging with everyone interested in good faith debate. His mission was to bring young people into the political process, which he did better than anybody ever, to share his love of country and to spread the simple words of common sense. On campuses nationwide, he championed his ideas with courage, logic, humor, and grace. It's a long past time for all Americans and the media to confront the fact that violence and murder are the tragic consequence of demonizing those with whom you disagree day after day, year after year, in the most hateful and despicable way possible. For years, those on the radical left have compared wonderful Americans like Charlie to Nazis and the world's worst mass murderers and criminals. This kind of rhetoric is directly responsible for the terrorism that we're seeing in our country today, and it must stop right now. My administration will find each and every one of those who contributed to this atrocity and to other political violence, including the organizations that fund it and support it, as well as those who go after our judges, law enforcement officials, and everyone else who brings order to our country. From the attack on my life in Butler, Pennsylvania last year, which killed a husband and father, to the attacks on ICE agents, to the vicious murder of a healthcare executive in the streets of New York, to the shooting of House Majority Leader Steve Scalise and 3 others, radical left political violence has hurt too many innocent people and taken too many lives. Tonight, I ask all Americans to commit themselves to the American values for which Charlie Kirk lived and died, the values of free speech, citizenship, the rule of law, and the patriotic devotion and love of God. Charlie was the best of America, and the monster who attacked him was attacking our whole country. An assassin tried to silence him with a bullet, but he failed, because together we will ensure that his voice, his message, and his legacy will live on for countless generations to come. Today, because of this heinous act, Charlie's voice has become bigger and grander than ever before, and it's not even close. May God bless his memory, may God watch over his family, and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Senior American politicians have condemned the violence, and wishes of condolence have poured in from around the world. This dedication to Mr. Kirk was placed outside the US Embassy in Madrid. A vigil will be held tonight for the Turning Point founder in London. Charlie Kirk was shot yesterday at a campus event in Utah. He believed in the power of debate.
Go around universities and have challenging conversations, and because that's what is so important to our country, is to find our disagreements respectfully, because when people stop talking, that's when violence happens.
Nick Dunning, GB News.
Yeah.
Donald.
So ultimately, that was his goal, right? To have the hard, difficult conversations that nobody else wanted to have. That was it. He had an opinion and he let other people express theirs. And FBI officer goes, huh? And Sassy Lady said, if Charlie can use free speech to spread hate and evil, then we should be able to do the same. Well, we don't want to spread hate and evil. That's the whole point. And I think that was the point of him having the events that he did. He wanted to get people to be honest about what they were saying. And she said, Kyrie Irving was fine for his speech. He was. And it was weird because all he did was say it was like one sentence. It was like, look at this. That was it. That's all he said. He didn't say anything for or against the book that he had read, right? Hebrews to Negroes. He didn't say anything. He just said, look at this. And see, it was in those moments, right? Thank you for bringing that up, Sassy Lady, that we should have said, hey, why are you demonizing this person for free speech and making it basically say that he hates the Jewish people? He never said that. He's not being disrespectful to anybody. He was like, hey, check this out. And he posted a link to the book. That was it. That's all he did. And he has every right to do that. And these are the things that we're going to have to be the part of the conversation on. I don't want to spread hate and violence. I actually want the rhetoric to be tamped down. But my bigger question is the why. Why is it ramping up? And why is it ramping up in the way that it is? Right? There's always the underlying question for me, why? So we're going to get into our next video that I want to share with you guys. And it's not the whole video, but I just want to play like toward the end part of it so we can get into the next one. And FBA Goddess says, we are the only group who are not allowed to speak our truth. They will undermine it. While at the same time saying, well, you have freedom of speech. We have freedom of speech to an extent. And we know how far we can push the narrative. That's why I have this program that I have here. And I can have people on this panel, on my show, to be honest. And just have an honest conversation. Because for me, I'm really not concerned about what everybody else is doing. I'm concerned about why they're doing it. It's always the why for me. And that's where I'm at.
Fox News alert, Charlie Kirk assassinated. The president breaking the news. The great and even legendary Charlie Kirk.
Now, I wanted to preface this with this was on the 10th. So this is the day that it happened. And so this is the mind frame that Jesse Waters was in.
Kirk is dead. No one understood or had the heart of the youth in the United States of America better than Charlie. He was loved and admired by all, especially me, and now he is no longer with us. Melania and my sympathies go out to his beautiful wife, Erica, and family. Charlie, we love you. Charlie was loved by all of us. He had a beautiful family. If you can be murdered for speaking your mind in America, then America's done. We might as well live in the dark ages. And this isn't the first time this has happened. This is just the worst time. They shot Trump. They went to Kavanaugh's house with a rifle. They're fighting.
Now, most of the people that he's going to bring up, he's not going to bring up Malcolm. He's not going to bring up Martin Luther King. He's not going to bring up people that were mass incarcerated for their freedom of speech. He's not going to bring up the Panther Party. He's not going to bring those up because, again, it's about the why. It's about the why. And Sassy Lady says, Whoopi was fined for her speech about white on white crime. Yeah. So you're seeing the trend, right? There is a trend. And is the trend political? Is the trend racial? But it is a trend. And again, it comes back to the why.
Firebombing Elon's cars, rioting in LA, trans shooters are killing our kids. They just plugged 2 Jews outside the embassy in our capital. Hell, Rand Paul got his ribs broken by his neighbor. ICE agents have to wear masks because their families are getting death threats. It's officially over now. After today, we're not taking it anymore. They're telling us we're at war.
We're in a war right now to save this country, and so you have to be willing to do whatever is necessary in order to save the country.
This is a war we didn't ask for, and this is a war they can't win. The way to win is to do what Charlie did. Speak your mind louder. Tell the truth more. Put so much pressure on all of these people that they never try anything like this again. This is a turning point. Everything that we've witnessed recently is unacceptable. Everyone's going to be held accountable in the media, in Congress, on campus, everywhere. So follow your heart. Fight for what you believe in. And don't be ashamed of putting America first. We know what's right, and we know what needs to be done. Challenge them harder. Ask more questions. And like Charlie, chin high and do it with a smile. Click here to subscribe.
Okay. Now, that was on the 10th. I need you guys to put a pin in this one. That was on the 10th. Okay. And Sassy Lady says, why, Lord, why? And FBA Goddess says, Fred Hampton was silenced. As I said earlier, we are not allowed to speak unfiltered. Yeah. Oh, I know. Trust me. Oh, I'm aware. I'm aware exactly where you're saying and exactly where you're going with this. But it's that part. It's the why. Why are some allowed free speech and others not, right? Because when you don't have the freedom to speak, then people can create your narrative, right? Again, there's a little bit more to this that I see that is very nefarious. So we're going to get into this next video, this last one.
What they're saying on television and who's saying what? The politicians.
Now, this video was from yesterday. So you saw the one on the 10th, right? How he was like, keep your head high. Let's do this the right way, right? Let's be civil. Now, listen to this tone. Let me take it back a few seconds.
And we're watching what they're saying on television and who's saying what? The politicians, the media, and all of these rats out there.
Something very curious in the wake of Charlie Kirk's death yesterday that I'm noticing online, that I'm sure you've noticed if you've taken a break to peruse Twitter or anywhere on social media, is that when there is political violence against a left individual, a liberal, a Democrat, Democrats are outraged and Republicans are silent or gleeful. And when there's political violence against a Republican or a conservative, Democrats are outraged and Republicans are outraged, but also stoke violence against Democrats. And that's exactly what's happening right now, except at a degree I don't think I've ever seen in the wake of something like what happened yesterday. It's different. It is very different. Yesterday, I did the video about Charlie Kirk's shooting before he was pronounced dead. And I read several tweets from governors, from Pritzker and Newsom and David Pacman and other prominent online thinkers who are liberal or Democrat. And all of them, including myself, condemned political violence. All of them. I have not seen one single Democrat of note anywhere say anything other than This must stop. This is outrageous and deplorable and disgusting and just outright condemnation. You may have seen some rando on Twitter act like an asshole about it, act gleeful about it, not really fully thinking through what the stakes are for the country and our future. But prominent people of note are not doing that.
Now that always sets a different tone for me. Prominent people of note. Every time I hear people speak like that, it's like you're such an elitist. You're nothing. You are nothing without the people that follow you. At the end of the day, humble out. Be grateful that people respect you enough to even listen to your opinion, because they don't have to. You're not a person of note. You're somebody who's put in front of us. There's a difference. There is a big difference. And I'll continue.
Not so on the right. I did run across this tweet from Adam Schwartz, who is apparently a political thinker in Great Britain. And he gave his thoughts from across the pond about what he's witnessing online relative to what I just spoke about. I'm going to read you two tweets, and then we're going to get into exactly what is taking place over on Fox News and across the conservative zeitgeist of media, of them stoking the rank and file Republicans to violence, to fury, to anger, to apoplectic rage. This is Adam Schwartz. My observations from the last few hours of monitoring U.S. social media is that Democrats are universally denouncing political violence and calling for calm, while MAGA are escalating rhetoric and lusting for retribution against broad categories of people.
Now, that might be for some of the Democrats that are like, like the guy from MSNBC, he got fired the same day for what he said about Charlie Kirk. Fired. Everybody called for his firing. People were outraged at what he said. He got fired. He is done. He is offline. Okay. Now, I don't know if some of you guys have seen the videos, and that's what he's talking about. The randos. It's the rhetoric from the people that do have the larger microphone, and it filters down. Like, I've seen crash outs even on the right this one lady, she was like, I can't believe it. I was just like, okay, I can't play that on my show, but like, wow, the crash out that happened. It's on both sides. Bad. And we're going to talk about it here in a moment, but it just really, just take into perspective what he's saying.
They identify as their enemies. He followed it up with this: the escalatory potential of political violence is why this should be a moment of U.S. political unity where left and right call for calm. Deliberately incendiary MAGA responses show that they are not a peaceful movement operating under the normal civic values of the United States Constitution. I read this because this is far more poignantly and intelligently stated than I could have mustered. Like, I'm a bombastic guy. I'm a name caller, and all that's fine. I get called names. That's fine. That's fine. It's absolutely fine. But I don't call for violence. You will not find me, videos of me, calling for violence, political violence. I made a joke a few years ago about having a charity boxing match with Tucker Carlson where I challenged him. But that's a charity boxing match inside of a ring with a referee and rules and boxing gloves. That's not a shooter on a roof targeting with a high-powered, high-caliber long rifle a political opponent. That's not inciting an insurrection and an attempted overthrow of the United States government in order to end democracy in America. That's not celebrating the hammer attack on the head of the former Speaker of the House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi. It's not that. Political violence is wrong. It's wrong. It's wrong. because it leads us to inflamed passions that sometimes get out of control. When synergies collect and people lose it. And that is exactly what the intent of what I'm getting ready to show you here is. We're going to start with Jesse Waters, who's literally talking about revenge. He's literally talking about what we're going to do. We're going to avenge him. He's talking in this way, not that he's going to do anything. The thin-armed, soft-skinned Jesse Waters, he's not going to deliver a blow. He's not going to go to war. He's not going to commit violence, but he will sure as convince some yokel, some unwashed, low-information Fox News rube to do it in his name. And then he'll deny, what? No, I didn't do that. I didn't say that. Mr. Multimillionaire, Mr. Child of Privilege. And that is exactly what they want. They want to stir the pot so much that the rank and file lose it and start acting out. They want chaos in the streets. They want violence in the United States. They want rivers of blood. Watch this first clip from.
Well, my question is, who's the they? Right? Who is the they? Are you saying that the they are the right? Because you just said you're not about calling for political violence, right? You're not playing the blame game. Well, who's the they then, sir? It's interesting.
Jesse Waters, and then we'll move on to his little buddy, Greg Gutfeld.
This hits differently because Charlie was one of us. And Trump gets hit in the ear. Charlie gets shot dead. They came after Kavanaugh with a rifle to his neighborhood. They went after Musk's cars. They just shot 2 Jews outside the embassy. Think about it. Scalise got shot, barely survived. It's happening. You got trans shooters. You got riots in LA. They are at war with us. Whether we want to accept it or not, they are at war with us. And what are we going to do about it? How much political violence are we going to tolerate? And that's the question we're just going to have to ask ourselves. Now, Charlie would want us to put as much pressure on these people as possible. Dana nailed it. This is unacceptable and has to stop. And it has to stop now. And everybody's accountable. And we're watching what they're saying on television and who's saying what. The politicians, the media, and all these rats out there. This can never happen again. It ends now. Greg's right again. This is a turning point. And we know what.
So we have politicians and we got media and we have rats. We have rats, not people. Rats. So you're dehumanizing people. It always fascinates me when people say that they are free speech absolutists and then they get mad. They get mad when people are actually using their right of free speech. You may not like what they say. Now, it's one thing to have your free speech, and it's another thing to incite violence. Those are two different things. When you incite violence, that is a crime. It is. It's a crime, and you can be held accountable for threatening the life of another person. So you have to be careful with your speech and how you use it. Now, Mr. Waters, he totes that line very finely in what you heard from him. Now, could he be accused of being insightful? Absolutely. We are at war. Who are we at war with, sir? Because first of all, war is fought with words. You know, the tanks and guns come later. You know, being out in the street comes later. War is actually an intellectual debate. That's war. War is words. Where it starts. But people have turned it into that physical activity. So let's continue.
Which direction we're going.
Starts off nice, doesn't it? This hits differently because Charlie was one of us. Just giving up the whole game, Jesse Waters. Didn't give a single f*** when Melissa Hortman was assassinated at the hands of a Republican gunman. No, but this hits differently because Charlie was also a racist. He was also a white supremacist. He was also a Republican. That's why it's different this time.
Now, here's my thing. Do we know that he was a racist or a white supremacist? See, again, I've already talked about racism on this show. Show me the action of racism. Show me the action, because there has to be an actual action. Did he actually go out and hire, let's say, more white people than black people and say, I'm hiring the white people because the black people don't know what they're doing? That would be an act of racism. Then you can call him a racist. Give me a defining moment, because your feelings from his words to call him a racist doesn't make him a racist. Makes you mad, right? You don't like what he's saying. But racism is a verb. It is an action that you have to do in order to be a racist. I've seen them call black people white supremacists. What? Because they don't agree with other black people, or they may not agree with something. I've heard people that are in the LGBTQ community. You don't agree with me, you're a racist. What? I'm not putting anybody above you and saying that you're beneath them. And first of all, we can't even have that conversation because LGBTQ is not even a race. It's a religion. It's a totally different situation. But words matter. And right now, words really matter. And we're going to have to be more on top of it than we are.
And then do you notice the vagary of his language? They came after Kavanaugh. A mentally disturbed individual did approach Kavanaugh's house, Brett Kavanaugh, with a weapon, and then called the cops on himself because he was disturbed. That's why he was there. He was disturbed and found clarity enough to call the cops on himself. He wasn't caught by the authorities, by the armed agents of the state who guard the Supreme Court justice. He called the cops on himself. And it's not they. Who's this they? This nebulous they, this dangerous, shadowy they. Who are you talking about? Jesse Waters? They went after Musk's cars. They just shot 2 Jews outside the embassy. They did this. Do you hear this, Fox News viewers? They might be coming for you next. It's dangerous. It's happening, he says. We've got trans shooters. It is remarkable to me, with the literal thousand upon thousands upon thousands of mass shootings we've had in this country at the hands of white men, predominantly, overwhelmingly white men, white boys, white males, thousands, tens of thousands, maybe. I don't know the number is so astronomical. I don't know the number, but we've had of all the tens of thousands of mass shootings, there's been 5 transgender people. So now that's the threat. It's all to stoke fear, to otherize marginalized communities, so innocent trans Americans will be under threat of violence and death, torture, and murder. Not at Jesse Waters' hands. He'll be blameless. He's not going to do the violence himself. We'll get to who will, the types that will. They are at war with us, he says. They are at war with us, he repeats. How much political violence are we going to tolerate, he says, rallying the troops. And we're watching what they're saying on television. And who's saying what? This is a threat. We're watching. We're seeing who's saying what they're saying. The politicians and the media and all of those rats out there. They're watching. They're listening. This is a turning point, Jesse Waters says, and we know which direction we're going. Is that right, Jesse Waters? Just another fucking mouthy coward whose words have import, whose words will influence radicals, people already on the edge, who don't know the facts, who are steeped in conspiratorial thinking that is delivered to them, spoon-fed to them by Fox News. Again, Jesse Waters' little buddy, Greg Gutfeld, he had this little add-on to the screed.
Yeah, I know that it's somewhat object of mockery to say thoughts and prayers, but thoughts and prayers for his family. They need it from all of us. And Jesse's right. If they could do this, they are capable of anything. I think that was the message. I believe that was the message. It's really hard to radicalize Republicans.
Yeah.
You know, it's like we're not the radical type. But if you thought that you were going to shut a movement down, you're going to get a rude awakening. You woke us the fuck up.
And we will.
Again, with the vagary. If they could do this, they could do this. They are capable of anything. We don't even know if it was one shooter or multiple people. We don't know the motivations of this individual. We don't know. Look, this could easily be some unhinged QAnon nut who is angry that Charlie Kirk backed away from trying to get the Epstein files released. It's just as logical and reasonable that that could be the case. This person, I'm assuming man, could be a liberal, could be someone with leftist ideologies. It could be, but it could just as easily be the other side. If you thought that you were going to shut a movement down, you're going to get a rude awakening. You woke us the fuck up, says little Greg Gutfeld.
Sorry for the cursing.
Who's never punched or been punched, ever. Never delivered violence or been a victim of violence, ever. Yet he's willing to stoke the passions of those who will deliver violence. I've got some others here. Maybe I'll mix this up in another video. Steve Bannon talking about we have not yet begun to fight, talking about war. Sean Hannity acting as though it's Democrats. Nancy Mace on the attention tour, the perpetual attention tour, acting as though Democrats have blood on their hands. This is the Democrats' fault. But then when asked, anyway, maybe I will do that. I would love your opinion on this. This is all meant, to wrap it up, is absolutely meant, in no uncertain terms, to stoke the passions of the rank and file in the Republican Party. I love your opinion on this. Let's have a conversation in the comments wherever you're watching this video. You can also call the voicemail.
Yeah. So I will make sure to add this the link to this video so you can see it again. But that is fascinating how he kept bringing that up, like who's the they, and he brought it up for both sides. And Brother Muko says, Grand Rising founder, Grand Rising to you, Brother Muko. And you've also, let's see, Conscious Outlaw said, do what Charlie did. Okay, go right ahead. Okay. And Brother Muko says, white supremacy are the they. And he also says, white people are always playing both sides of the arguing of racist white supremacy. Yeah. It is fascinating, right? To just see it. And Sassy Lady says, amen. Yeah. It is a trip to see it play out in, I don't want to say real time, but what I did try to do, especially with that last video from GBN and how they pulled the clips, it was the parts of the clips that they pulled that were the inflammatory parts, right? That really stoke your emotion. But it, again, took things out of context, But then again, we see, you know, Senator Warren going up without even being asked a question and immediately addresses the situation for Charlie Kirk. How did you know where to go and who to go to and what the question was going to be so you were ready to give a response? Like, what are we doing? Do you got little ear things in your ears so you hear what they're going to ask you next and how to respond? It is very staged. A lot of what we see right now. And so, of course, I'm going to ChatGPT. I had some questions. And most of my questions kind of stemmed around what's happening, right? So I said, can you give me a timeline of the shooting in Colorado and the shooting of Charlie Kirk? Also, can you point out the top news stories and if they are using the fate, focus, authority, tribe, emotion model to influence the public for more important information? Excuse me. And Sassy Lady says Nick Cannon was canceled for speaking about Jews. I had to bring that out. Yeah. And Nick Cannon, Kyrie Irving, Fred Hampton, even Whoopi, right? We got to bring it all out. But when there are people that look like us, they will do what they need to do to wrangle us in, right? That's the scary part. So they put together a tight source of back timelines for the two shootings that I asked about, be the top rated news threads right now, and a short fate read on whether coverage is steering public attention away from or toward more important information, right? So here we go. So when the event happened with Charlie Kirk, here's the timeline. So September 10th, during a campus event, Charlie was speaking. Unfortunately, he was shot. I'm paraphrasing everything. But the same day, the shooter fired from a distance, they say about 200 yards. They're investigating and there's a manhunt. Now, as of today, they say they do have a person of interest, but we'll see. Right? So political and public reaction. National leaders condemned the attack. Coverage immediately framed it in the context of rising political violence. So it was immediately framed as political violence. So now we have an us-them scenario, right? We've got Republicans and Democrats. Okay, tribe. So I need you guys to follow this. We got tribe. We got tribalism going on. So now the Evergreen High School incident, this was the shooting that happened in Colorado. This is what the members of Congress were screaming about on the floor. On the 10th, the shooting occurred at the Evergreen High School in Jefferson County, Colorado. And the victims and shooter, so authority says the shooter was 16 and he shot two classmates. One student remained in critical condition and the shooter later died of a self-inflicted wound. Officials described the teen as being radicalized online. There was a local investigation and community impact. So county law enforcement and schools issued updates. The community and parents were alerted. Okay. Now the top news threads right now and what editors are pushing in a quick fate read. So they grouped things together to really see. So the Charlie Kirk killing and manhunt, that's one of the top stories right now. That's what they want us to all focus on. So what newsrooms emphasize, the manhunt, how the shooter carried out the attack at a political event, national political reaction, and the concerns about political violence and security at public events. So the focus is very high. Most outlets focus tightly on the assassination narrative, subject images, and the manhunt. Right? Then the authority part of it is many national outlets lean on official statements, governor, FBI, DPS, which increases trust legitimacy of the frame. Now, for the tribe, is strong conservative outlets and many right-leaning commentators frame Kirk as a targeted conservative martyr. This primes in group versus outgroup narratives. Other outlets place it in the broader pattern of U.S. political violence. Both are tribal cues. The emotion, very high. Images, video, grief, and outrage dominate which intensifies public reaction and reduces attention span for policy nuance, right? Nobody's talking about policy, that everybody's outraged. Right. And Sassy Lady says Evergreen High School is 43 minutes from Denver. Thank you for that information. Yeah. Now, for Evergreen High School, the shooting and the youth radicalization, what newsrooms are emphasizing: the shooter's age, how the student was radicalized online, immediate victim conditions, and school safety. Local outlets lead, national outlets cover as part of broader gun violence in schools. So that's what they're bringing out with the incident that happened at the school, was the gun violence, not so much the radicalization of this human, which I would think would be the bigger issue, right? Because guns don't walk around on their feet. People get access to guns, but why do they want the access to the guns? If they're not radicalized, they won't want the guns. It's putting it in that context, right? So the focus is high. Local media focus on the community impact and the shooter's profile, age, online activity. That steers public attention toward how did a teen get radicalized, rather than the deeper policy levers: mental health, funding, gun access, social media moderation, right? I'm on the social media moderation. The gun access is always going to be, like I said, people want to get a gun, they're going to get one. Whether it's in a dark alley or whether it's at a gun show or whether they apply for one, they're going to get a gun, period. So the authority, local law enforcement statements are the authority anchor. National commentary often references research or prior incidents. The tribal aspect, moderate. Some outlets and social platforms quickly cast the shooter into political, cultural tribes, e.g., blaming particular online communities. They might be blaming liberals or conservatives, right? Either way, which polarizes responses. Okay. Now, an emotion is high. School shootings provoke intense emotional coverage. Victims, parents, community, which raises sympathy but can crowd out measured policy discussion. And I think that's what Senator Warren was bringing up. She was like, we're in Congress. We have, the ability to do this. Okay, ma'am, write the legislation. You act like you're in the office, but you can't do anything. You keep pointing back at the office like there's nothing you can do. Write the legislation, ma'am, and put it on the floor. That's all I'm saying. Write it and put it on the floor. They'll be like, oh, well, the Republicans, they just won't even listen. I don't care if they won't listen. If y'all got to write 50 bills between the House and the Senate and get it on the floor, do that. Do your job and stop complaining about your job. Because I think y'all are better at complaining about what you can't do as opposed to doing it and getting your job done. Right? So the platform moderation and viral content. So how social media gaming platforms respond. What newsrooms emphasize viral videos of the Kirk shooting, rapid spread inside games, social apps, e.g. Roblox, removed content referring to referencing the incident, and pressures on platforms to act, right? So, for the fate model for that is those platforms and content moderation become the focus. This shifts from public energy, from prevention to after the fact content control. The authority coverage often cites platform statements or lawmakers urging removal. You got the authority of corporations versus government. Tribe, moderate, calls to remove content are sometimes framed as protecting children or as censorship depending on the outlet. Emotion, high. Graphic content stokes outrage, making platform action seem urgent. So the net effect, attention concentrates on content moderation, logistics, and platform responsibility. What's important, but can eclipse root causes like gun access or political rhetoric. There's a broader narrative, rising political violence in the U.S. What newsrooms emphasize contextual pieces linking Kirk's killing to a series of attacks attempts against public figures and officials and debate about heated political rhetoric. As you can see on the one gentleman, he had the suit on. When he would talk about the right, he would bring up Trump, right, getting shot in the ear, but he also would bring up the January 6th incident, where so as with Jesse Waters, he brought up Kirk being killed and then the attempted assassinations on Trump. And then, I think there was another somebody else that he brought up, Steve Scalise, Rand Paul. You're bringing up all of these people on these different sides trying to juxtapose. It's all political. But who stoked those flames? The people with the microphones. Just saying. So for focus, big picture framing trend pulls public focus towards systemic risk rather than isolated incidents. That can be good for policy debates if coverage stays analytical rather than purely moralizing, right? For the authority part of it, it depends. Reputable outlets cite data sets and experts, high authority. Partisan outlets sometimes use anecdote clustering to make a point, lowering evidentiary authority. Yeah. So they'll make a point, but it's really not backed up with anything. They'll make broad statements like saying they. So tribe and emotion, both are active. These narratives about who is being targeted tend to split along partisan lines and elicit strong emotions. So here's the net effect. The story can push audiences to consider structural responses, threat assessment, de-escalation of rhetoric. But tribal framing and emotional coverage often pull the conversation back towards blame and retaliation. And that's what we're seeing. It is what it is. My question is still why? Why are they doing this? Do they want us at each other's throats? I mean, they keep saying it's a war. We have to. What? I'm not going to go outside because a lot of the people that I live around are Democrats and be like, everything is your fault. Really? It's not. It really isn't. I may not agree with your politics, but you're still a human. I may not agree. And I don't have to. And I think that's what we need to get back to. It is okay to disagree. But now you're trying to make a disagreement an emotional, football. I can disagree with somebody all day long. It's always that why for me. They are exy. Okay. So both, for a quick summary and takeaway, both events are dominating coverage, but in different ways. Kirk's killing is fueling a national political and security storyline. Manhunt, political violence. The Colorado shooting is driving a local school safety and youth radicalization storyline. For the media influence via fate, most major outlets strongly use focus, near-term facts, and emotion, graphic video, and grief. Tribe shows up strongly in partisan or opinion outlets, framing Kirk's death as a targeted political attack versus a symptom of broader social breakdown, right? Authority is present when outlets foreground official statements and investigative reporting. That helps keep reporting factual, but authority statements can also be selectively amplified to support narratives. Result: the public attention, emotional and tribal signals are pushing audiences toward immediate outrage and identification. This drives clicks and engagement, but can sideline deeper policy questions: how to prevent radicalization, how to harden event security sensibly, how to regulate access to weapons, and how to reduce online amplification of violent content. And so it asked me if I wanted to do, the deeper fate model and everything, but I wanted to also include how the Smith-Month Modernization Act may have contributed to all of this, right? Ooh. Excuse me, guys. Because that Smith-Month Modernization Act, that's a big one. So it, broke down the timelines for me. Okay, I was like, thank you so much. We got the details and the summary of what happened, viral content. I'm like, okay. All right. And then I wanted to really see how the Smith-Month Modernization Act may have contributed, right? Context and mechanism. So the Smith-Month Modernization Act 2012 amended, implemented in 2013, removed or relaxed long-standing restrictions on disseminating certain U.S. government-produced information domestically. Although the law was primarily about allowing government-funded international broadcasting and informational material to be shared within the United States, it changed institutional practices and blurred lines between content created for foreign audiences and what enters domestic media ecosystems, right? And Harriet says they are exemplifying how the AKA whites are balkanized. Yeah, and we can see it. This is why I'm bringing this up. So, mechanisms by which it could matter now. So, increased availability of government produced material. Agencies can now provide broadcast quality material to U.S. outlets on request, which may be used by media in fast breaking stories. Blurred sourcing. Materials originally intended for overseas audiences can now show up domestically without the old legal barriers, potentially amplifying official frames. Institutional norms. Over a decade of change practices has expanded how government communications are packaged and distributed, making official narratives easier to fold into news cycles. So the caveat, there's no direct evidence that Smith-Month caused specific editorial choices in these incidents. It is one institutional factor among many: platforms, algorithms, commercial incentives, partisan media ecosystems that shape how official messaging and rapid multimedia content circulate domestically, right? And the outlet specific fate snapshots. I went back over that and I still asked, with all of this information, do you think the media coverage is being used in a way to destabilize the American public? Because that's where I'm really at. Because the why? What is happening to us? And they said the short answer is yes. Media coverage can, and in many cases does, contribute to destabilizing the public, but it's a complex mix of structural incentives, platform mechanics, partisan actors, and occasional government messaging tools. It's rarely a simple conspiracy of the media trying to destabilize everyone. More often, it's many forces, some intentional, some accidental, that together increase fear, polarization, and the risk of escalation. Below, I'll explain how show evidence connected to the fate levers we already used and offer practical ways to reduce them. So why coverage can destabilize the mechanisms. Emotion first reporting and viral video amplification. Graphic footage and emotionally charged reporting grab attention and spread fast on social media platforms, right? Increasing public fear and outrage. That emotional spike shortens attention for deeper policy discussion and increases calls for immediate, often tribal responses. Studies show exposure to graphic violence raises distress and fear and changes risk perceptions. The tribal framing and elite cues. When partisan elites and partisan media cast an event as an attack on our tribe, it increases support for retaliatory violence among co-partisan and deepens polarization. Recent research shows co-party elite violence rhetoric increases public support for political violence mediated by fear, algorithmic amplification, and platform design. Social platforms reward engagement, sensational, emotional, intense, and conspiratorial content platforms well, and therefore gets shown to more people, often without the context that would reduce panic or retaliation. Journalistic outlets also reuse viral clips, sometimes without verification, extending reach. Reporting on how social media spread the Kirk footage and intensified outrage illustrates this, right? People were just sending it out there without any context around it. Oh my gosh, you got shot. I can't believe this. Da, 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 da. And you're moving so fast, and the emotions are going, and the whys, and everybody's so caught up in emotion. Now everybody's at the travel phase, and no one's really thinking straight. And then you've got individuals on Fox News saying, we're at war. What? Stop it. What are you trying to do? I mean, ultimately, what's your end game? What is your goal at the end of this? Where are you trying to see people? You want people out fighting in the streets? I'm just saying, what is the goal? What is your end game? Because truly the end game right now, in my opinion, is we need to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry, right? So misinformation, rumor, and the speed of modern news cycles. So fast-breaking events create information vacuums. In that vacuum, rumors and false narratives spread quickly. Those narratives can inflame groups and increase the chance of copycat or retaliatory acts. Scholarly reviews link misinformation spreads to political violence risk. So institutional messaging shifts. The Smith-Month context. The Smith-Month Modernization Act removed a decades-old restriction on domestic dissemination of certain government-produced informational material. That change made it easier for government-produced content to re-enter domestic information ecosystems, which can increase the volume and polish off official frames available to domestic audiences. Critics warn this blurs the boundary between public diplomacy and domestic messaging. Defenders argue it merely modernizes information flows. It's an enabling factor, not a smoking gun. It increases available official material that could be folded into media coverage, but it doesn't by itself create destabilizing narratives. So, how this maps into fate? While the coverage focuses on immediate violence and suspects, that concentrates public attention on fear, retaliation, rather than prevention. Official statements are amplified, which can't help accuracy, but selectively amplified authority cues can legitimize partisan frames. The tribal cues appear strongly in partisan outlets and social feeds, fueling us versus them mobilization, emotion, high. High emotion is turbocharger, drives engagement, widens reach, and increases destabilizing behaviors. So, is it deliberate destabilization or structural market-driven harm? Sometimes deliberate. Bad actors, extremist groups, opportunistic influencers, some partisan operators intentionally exploit events to stoke fear and mobilize supporters. We've seen actors rapidly reframe incidents to push calls for retaliation. often structural, much destabilizing effect comes from businesses and technical incentives, engagement driven algorithms, 24/7 news cycles, reporting norms, sensational headlines, rapid but incomplete verification, and social dynamics, confirmation bias, echo chambers. These aren't necessarily coordinated or conspiratorial, but their combined effect is destabilizing. So, how strong is the evidence? Oops, sorry. The evidence that media coverage causes destabilization. There's growing and persuasive evidence linking media dynamics and social media misinformation to increases in fear, polarization, and the risk of political violence, especially when partisan elites encourage violent rhetoric. But casual pathways are complex and intricate. Media coverage interacts with economic stressors, political rhetoric, social networks, and individual psychology. You know, so the short policy and civic fixes that reduced destabilizing effects are practical. Better newsroom practices, prioritize verified facts, avoiding gratuitous graphic sharing, give context and policy pathway instead of perpetual outrage frames, right? Platform reforms, slow the spread of graphic and unverified content during breaking events. Label limit amplification of incendiary posts and improve friction for viral reposting. Hold elites accountable. Public calls for nonviolent rhetoric from political leaders. Reduce co-partisan escalation. Media should highlight this and scrutinize violent rhetoric by elites. Public literacy and pre-bunking. Invest in media literacy and rapid debunking infrastructure so rumor vacuums are filled with credible contextual information. Transparency around government messaging, clear labeling when government produced materials are used domestically would reduce confusion tied to the Smith-Month era content flows. Yeah. So if we knew some of the things being put out were actually put out by our own government, people would stop and be like, oh, okay. This is what you're trying to share with us? Our government. And then we could scrutinize, which is like I'm saying, I'm always trying to give you guys information that gives you informed consent. We are consumers of news. We consume it. And we need to know what we're consuming and why. So the bottom line, media coverage and platform dynamics are not the only cause of societal destabilization, but they are powerful multipliers. Emotional, tribalized, and rapidly amplified coverage combined with elite rhetoric and platform initiatives significantly raises the chance of panic, retaliatory violence, and erosion of shared facts. Smith-Month's modernization helped change the institutional availability of government material domestically, which can make official frames easier to integrate into the flow. But it's one contributing institutional shift among many, not the primary driver. So I said, do you see political rhetoric calling for, I meant to say tribal war, because of these two events? Meaning, did coverage start as let's come together, and now it's us against them? Sorry for my typos. But it says, yes, there's increasingly strong evidence that rhetoric has shifted, at least among some political media actors, from calls of unity or calm to more us versus them, which is trial by war, retribution, framing around the Charlie Kirk event. For the Evergreen High School shooting, the rhetoric seems less violent and war-oriented so far, though there are already elements of blame and extremist framing, right? So we know with Charlie Kirk, it's like the right wing, Trump calling for radical left lunatics, calls for vengeance and retribution, criticism from some Republicans, the media analysis showing the framing. Now, with the high school, right, it's a little bit different because while there are elements that could lead to polarization, for example, discussion of the shooter being radicalized by an extremist network, there's no strong evidence so far that political actors are calling for retribution or war over this event. Instead, local leaders have focused on school safety, investigating motives, about radicalization, asking what could have prevented it, right? The framing is more about how do we protect children? How do we prevent another, rather than this is an attack on our ideology, time to strike back, right? That's the mentality shift, and that's what I really wanted to see, and did coverage start with unity then shift? Yeah, in the Kirk case, early coverage included bipartisan condemnation, calls for unity, statements that political violence is unacceptable, right? Then soon after, other voices, especially on the right-wing media, among certain conservative politicians and influence, shifted towards more combative language, casting the event as a system of ideological attack, war, vengeance. This shift appears before any confrontation or motive or identity of the shooter. So yes, there is a visible evolution, initial unity, shock, blame, and then adversarial rhetoric. And why it matters: the shift in rhetoric can raise fear, stoke retaliation, increase polarization. It can erode norms of free speech and civil debate when people perceive threats from the other side. It raises the chance of political violence, either rhetorical incitement or actual physical violence. Experts warn about these feedback loops. It can distract from structural solutions, gun laws, security, radicalization prevention, in favor of identity-based scapegoating or political point scoring. Because here's the thing, and this is my opinion: you're going to focus on one group and then say, well, this other group is really violent too. Maybe we need to really restrict their gun laws. And y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. People that look like me. Black American. Because see, that young white woman, she was killed by a black man. So even if there are snipers on the roof and they are white, they may be focusing over here and saying, well, you guys commit more violence than the white people, so we need to make sure that you're shut down. All the while you're screaming, we don't need our speech shut down, but you are shutting down other people's speech. Like, people need to get out of their feelings right now. Take a breath, take a step back again. Be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. So I'm going to say a quick prayer for cover and Thanksgiving, and then we're going to end our stream and get to the weekend. So God, thank you so much for this day. Thank you so much just for everything that you've given us. It has been a really emotional week. Definitely praying for Charlie Kirk and his family and their loss, and praying for Tamion and his mom, right, and her loss of her son. Father, definitely just praying for those in our country right now to remember to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to get angry. Right now in our country is not the time to really point fingers and blame one another. It's a time to say and remember, what do we have right now? And actually, how can we make it better for everyone involved, God. Really help us to seek you and seek your face, God. We're so grateful for everything that you've done for us and everything that you're going to continue to do. We're looking so forward just for today, spending time with our family and loved ones. And please protect those of us that are out there on the road and working, and our families around us, God. We know that you, at the end of the day, have everything under your control. And the one thing you're waiting for from us is to realize the control that you have and how we just need to be good to one another, God. So I love you, and it's in Jesus' name I pray and give thanks. Amen. And guys, thank you so much for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News. We will be back on Monday. So remember, stay well, stay focused, and stay unfiltered. We'll see you on the next one.